In the Serenity Prayer, it says, God grant me the courage to change the things that I can change, and to accept the things that I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference. Throughout our lives, we're faced with those choices and those decisions about what's good and what's bad, what's the right way to go and what's the wrong way to go. What does God want in this situation? What does He not want? The ability to decide, to discern the right way, is an ability that very few, it seems to me, ever are able to work out. If you go through the Bible, one of the amazing things is how often it warns us not to be deceived, not to allow the false prophet, for example, to deceive us and cause us to go in the wrong way. John would say over in 1 John chapter 4 and verse 1, you need to test the prophets to see whether they're from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. You have to discern some things. You have to decide what's right and what's wrong. Jesus made the statement in John 7 and 17, that if any man wills to do his will, he will know it whether it is of God. To me, this is one of the greatest statements, an encouraging statement of the Bible. That if I really am longing to do what God wants me to do, I'll know what's right. I'll know what God wants in my life and in any given situation because I'm ready to do it. There's a big difference between being willing to know and in being willing to do. If a man is willing to know, then they're ready to do research and gain and perhaps even write papers and books on a particular thing. They want to know what's right. And then there are those who don't just want to know something, they want to do differently. What value is it to know right ways of doing things, but then not do it? What value is it to know, for example, what I ought to eat, but I don't eat it. I don't eat that way. I eat the wrong way. What value is it to know that I need exercise if I never get any? What value is it to know that to have a great marriage, I need to love and show attention and kindness and consideration for my mate if I'm not going to do it? If I'm going to be one that's selfish and uncaring and only thinks about me rather than about her, what value is it to know better if I'm not going to do better? Think about the whole concept of discerning. So many people that I visit with along the way will talk about, I wish I knew what God wanted in this particular situation. And I think a lot about Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Paul said, I plead with you by the mercies of God that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you might put to the test what is that good and perfect will of God. That I might, some translations have it, discern what is the good and perfect will of God. Deciding what God wants is possible. But it is intriguing to me that Paul would say the only way you can do that, the only way you can know for sure what God is wanting in your life and in given situations, is if you offer your whole self, you offer your bodies as that living sacrifice unto God. That you say, Lord, take my life and let it be. Consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of your will. Take my will and make it thine. it shall be no longer mine. See, when I'm ready to lay my own life, my own self on the altar of God as the greatest act of worship that I can ever do, then God says, I'll be one that's willing to show you my will. You'll be able to discern what's good but what's bad, what's the right and what's the wrong, what's God's will and what's not. But you can't let the world set you into its mold. You can't conform your life to the world. You need to be transformed, transfigured, and changed by one that is renewing your mind. See, it starts in the mind, but it moves into the life. We have to be ones that are growing in the understanding of God's eternal word. And just in knowing God, then we ought to be praying every day that the Spirit of God will guide us into the things that God wants in our life, that He'll bring about the circumstances, the situations, and the opportunities that we need to live for God on a regular basis. Discerning, discovering, knowing, the wisdom to know the difference, all of those are extreme.